Am I the asshole for sleeping top naked in my bedroom? My mom and I live in a crummy apartment complex in NYC. Our apartment itself isn't crummy. We've taken a lot of pride in making the inside of our apartment look nicer than it really is, but truth be told, the building is crummy. So much so that the radiator in my room is broken and I get heat every day of the year, even in summer. I prefer not to open my windows during summer as well because all types of questionable creepy crawlies like to come through the window, so I usually sleep on top of the covers or without pants. Last night it was too hot, so I slept without a shirt or bra. I have pretty huge boobs, it's no secret, but I was in the comfort of my bedroom and I keep my door closed when I sleep. This morning I woke up to find my mom staring at me. She scared me shitless, especially because I have a loft bed and was making direct eye contact with her as soon as I opened my eyes. She stood there and screamed at me for 20 minutes, telling me to put a shirt on and calling me a ruthless whore for sleeping without a shirt while her boyfriend was here. I put a pillow in front of my body and closed my eyes to go back to sleep. This wasn't good enough, and she ripped the pillow from my arms and told me to put on some clothes before her boyfriend came in here and saw me like this. I told her I keep my door closed for a reason, and if she's worried about her boyfriend bothering me, that's more telling of her boyfriend, not me. She was absolutely seething and told me I'm to live under her rules while I'm in her house. And that includes not being trashy and sleeping with some clothes on. I figured she was being ridiculous, but her boyfriend heard the commotion, ended up coming into the room to get her, without knocking mind you, and left me flailing to find a sheet to cover with. He was kind of eyeing me and told me my mom was right and I need to sleep with clothes on. I'm having a hard time understanding. Am I really an asshole here? Let's have a look at the comments. Not the asshole. You have a reasonable expectation of privacy in your room. She and her boyfriend should stay out of it. If she's that worried about him being in your room, maybe the real issue is that she's dating someone she doesn't trust who might be a creep. Right? People minding her own business would fix this. Alternatively, if they can't be bothered to do that, a lock would fix it as well. To be honest, I would want one on my door after this if someone was that worried their boyfriend was going to wander into my room, because I would feel so uncomfortable. Not the asshole. Honestly, your mom sounds horrible, and I'm worried that your living situation might be dangerous given the boyfriend. As an adult, it might be better for you to look for your own place or to perhaps move in with a trusted friend. That was my thought too. That likely if your mom is saying it's an issue because of her boyfriend, that means she believes the boyfriend is liable to do something and is projecting the blame onto you. So if something happens, she won't have to deal with him. I was looking for this. He sounds like an opportunistic creep and mom will likely turn a blind eye if something wayward happens. Or worse, victim shame her own daughter. Just thinking of him checking her out after invading her privacy and then telling her she is asking for it by dressing that way is making me want to punch a wall. Absolutely not the asshole. What is she even doing coming into your room without making sure you are awake or at least aware of her presence? If you have a lock on your door, just lock it when you go to sleep. That way she can't judge you. Honestly, you're in the privacy of your bedroom and your mom should respect that, even if it is her house. It's not like you are walking around the house topless. Part 2. After the whole debacle, I did purchase a wedge for under my door from Walmart. It worked and I didn't have any more issues with waking up to people in my face. I used the excuse that I was to keep our cat from opening my door at night and my mom seemed fine with that. While he was here and even after he was gone, my mom seemed detached and sort of out of it. I asked if everything was okay and she said she needed to sort out some feelings first, but she promised we would talk when she was better. I said okay and left it at that. Couple of days later, he came back for another weekend stay. The day after he came, they had an at-home date night with drinks and fancy takeout. And that night I woke up to my door being messed with. I call out to see if it's my mom and got no response. I pulled on a t-shirt and shorts and pulled the door wedge out to check, and E is standing at my door. He was drunk and I was a bit panicked because I thought something had happened to my mom and he needed help. But he just stood there for a few seconds without saying anything. He didn't seem to be sleepwalking or in peril, so I said, "I'm uncomfortable. I am closing my door." Before I could close the door all the way, my mom flew out her room, saw him, and started cussing and screaming and telling him he needed to leave. They argued back and forth for a while, but eventually she got him out of the door. After calming her down, I took her to her room and we had a talk. It turns out the day she had came into my room, she had been on his phone and saw he was talking to his brother-in-law about me in very disgusting ways. Talking about how I was growing up to be very shapely and mature and that he couldn't wait until I moved out so he could dump my mother for me. He said far more explicit things that were all extremely worrying, especially since we've known him since I was 11. My mom had came to tell me to be careful around him while she thought of a way to break it off safely. But when she saw my state, she had some misplaced anger. He's out of our lives now, thankfully. Am I the asshole for telling my wife's friend she's too old and ugly after she repeatedly asked my 90-year-old son to take off his shirt? He was getting uncomfortable. My mom had a small get-together at my house. One of my wife's friends was over. She's unmarried. I think she's 45, 47. We aren't too close to her since she lives pretty far away. She was over our house and she started complimenting my son. My son is 19. It started off innocent, but as time goes on, it gets more and more crossing the line. When we were out on my deck, she starts telling my son to take his shirt off. What's the point of going to the gym if no one will see it? My son is visibly uncomfortable and tries to shut her down. She repeatedly is asking and is getting more aggressive with it. I interject and I am like, "Hey Katie, I think you are a bit too old and ugly for my son." This got her upset really quickly and she excuses herself to the bathroom and starts crying. My wife goes to comfort her and then later she leaves. At the end of it, my wife is super angry with me for saying that I should have said, "Hey Kathy, looks like you had too much to drink or something else." I told my wife that Kathy, by the way, this is not her real name, works a corporate job, she has had training on this, and that she knows better. And our son was uncomfortable. He is 18 plus, but he doesn't know how to deal with an adult, let alone someone saying that in our house. I told my wife flat out that if I was to invite a guy friend and he was to ask to see our daughter in a bikini, my wife would have called the police. She says it's different. I tell her that I was way kinder to Katie than I would have been had a guy said something like that to our daughter. And I told my wife that Katie needs to apologize to my son before she can ever come into our house again. Overall, I think I was fair. If Katie just said it once and I said that, I think I would be the asshole. But the fact she kept repeating it, that's why I said it. And I wanted her to get the message that yes, I am upset, that's why I included the ugly part. Not the asshole. Double standard no more. I wouldn't let her around my boy anymore. I would be livid if a husband's friends was telling my daughter the same type of things. I'm going to go with not the asshole. It would probably have been better to say sternly, "Katie, that's enough, stop it, or leave my house," and leaving her appearance out of it. However, your comments were in the context of her sexually harassing your barely legal child who is less than half her age. And I'm having a hard time sustaining any outrage because you were a little snarky slapping down her exploitive and inappropriate behavior. Your wife is wrong. It is not better because she is a woman and your son is a man. Sexual harassment and preying on the fact that younger people often don't have experience shutting down inappropriate advances, particularly from someone connected to their parents or in some authority or authority adjacent position, is always wrong. The gender of the perpetrator and victim are irrelevant, and if she has a tendency to behave in sexually inappropriate and aggressive manner when drinking, then she should never drink. The biggest reason I don't really like OP doing it the way they did is because they are specifically aware that their son doesn't know how to handle this. So as a parent, they should do their best to model ideal behavior that would be suitable in a more delicate situation. I don't care about sparing the offender's feeling, I care about providing the best example for the son that he can use in other situations when he is vulnerable. Even if you believe you know how to handle certain situations, especially unwanted sexual attention, sometimes you just freeze. No matter how many times you are told what to do, fear and discomfort is still paralyzing. I have to agree, I don't think anyone really knows how to handle it, and most of the time it results on serious insults and yelling. A polite, please stop sexualizing me, it makes me uncomfortable and it's disgusting, does not elicit a polite sorry and stopping. It results in more crude comments and laughing and insults. Honestly, if I were OP or even his son, I'm a young woman, I wouldn't have even been that nice because shutting people down who are sexualizing barely adults or anyone is already hard outside of a full-blown ranting lecture at them.